This Yuletide Miniseries is a replay of episodes originally published in 2024. This way, the episodes are conveniently queued up in your podcast player so you don't have to go searching for them, and you never lose your spot in the listening order. As always, we're celebrating Yuletide in real time in the Numinous Network. I hope you'll join us for daily altar time from 10 to 10:30 a.m. Pacific, starting December 21st, winter solstice, and going through till New Year on January 1st. We're gathering on Zoom to check in, light our candles, and do a 20-minute guided trance journey to connect with the Yuletide theme of the day. So join us in the Numinous Network for Yuletide. Sign up at carmenspaniola.com.
Welcome to our second day of Yuletide. Today we celebrate the ancestors of our patrilineage, as well as land and spirits of place. Before we go further, let me clarify exactly what I mean by spirits of place. This refers to the other than human beings who inhabit the same land you currently live on. This can include the soul imprint of the earliest indigenous peoples, as well as the later settlers and occupiers. It also includes, very importantly, the devas and plant spirits, tree and stone and water people, and all the other sprites and fae folk living there now. Now, you may not believe these folk exist, and that's okay. But what if, just for today, you proceeded as though they do? What if you just chose to act as if there are others sharing the space with you? How would that affect the way you move about your day? I invite you to try it today and for the next 11 days, if that's not your current habit already. Today we honor earthy directive action. In many traditions, there is a Yule night to honor the men of the family and the remembered male ancestors. In Northern European traditions, the male ancestors, as well as male domestic deities, perform an important economic function. They help bring good fortune, maintain strong livestock, protection of property and land, and coordination of efforts among neighbors and the more than human kin during key activities like harvest and barn raising and other construction projects. These deities tend to choose to live in gardens, yards, vineyards, hedges, and outbuildings like barns and sheds and stables. The date for this night falls all over the map, but I placed it here to balance Mother's Night. In some places, they also honor the man who cleared the land upon which the home now stands, and so who presumably continues to watch over it. And that little detail could be a little tough for some of us to honor. Quite understandably, I think it may not feel totally right to honor the man who either stole or clear-cut the land you now live on. We'll talk a little bit more about how colonialism complicates our relationships with land a bit later in this episode, and later in the program on December 29th when we honor the blessings from the earth. So we'll get back to our male ancestors in a minute, but first things first, let's consider the land. If you don't already have an active spiritual and reciprocal relationship with the land you live on, you can use today as an opportunity to open those lines of communication. You can begin to make repair with the spirits of place by offering your grief and your gratitude, your awareness also that it may take some time and effort on your part for the spirits of place to want to connect with you. But you know what I've found? Spirits of place really appreciate effort and reciprocity. So we can begin by discerning which aspect of the land you live on can represent the spirits of place. When I say land you live on, this applies even if you're in an apartment building and just have one really awesome tree or a sweet little shrub kind of overlooked at the front door. However, if you're living in a concrete jungle, you may want to cast your awareness just a little wider. Perhaps the essence of the place where you live can only really be seen when you widen the aperture. Maybe it's the view from your window, and that's how you sense the essence of the place. Maybe there are some mountains or treetops or clouds in the distance. Or maybe you need to adopt a rock you find somewhere outside or go visit a park. just something to connect with the spirits of place from the broader geography of your region. Now, how do you discern which aspect of the land you live on can represent the spirits of place? How do you know? Is it this tree or that boulder or the fields of soybeans or this traffic island covered in begonias, or maybe it's those rose bushes by the gas station parking lot, or maybe it's the little stream in the ditch over there? Discernment about these things takes a bit of time and some concerted observation. In Latin, the sense of place was called genius loci, meaning the prevailing character or atmosphere. The Gaels of the Highlands in Scotland, and certainly also throughout Ireland historically, had a kind of, you could almost call it affliction, called topomania, an obsession with geography, places, and their names. A sense of place is sort of taken a bit to an extreme, if that's possible, to be extreme about having a sense of place. The word in Scottish Gaelic is Gin Hinneches, the lore of places. In fact, many songs of bardic poetry and of the Gaels is kind of just a list of place names strung together in rhythm. The essence of a person or a place is known as the brí, but it means more than the essence. Like all words trying to describe the more than human, it can't really be captured in language, and it does make it especially difficult if you're from outside of a culture, but the main idea here is that the brí is like the essence combined with one's virtue, which is to say your highest standards of behavior and morality and living. And then combine that with empowerment, like one's unique signature of vital life force energy. And then combine that with magic and unlikelihood and mystery, like when you look at something and think, how in the world does that even exist? This whole universe, how unlikely and miraculous is this whole affair? So you combine all of that together, and that's the brí. That's what you're looking for. Now, I'm not sure if this is the word in Irish Gaelic, but in Scottish Gaelic, the word for the brí made manifest so that we can see it with our own eyes is called the buai. Sometimes a place reveals its spiritual power to us through one fantastic tree or rock or bush or stream or gully or field or hill or some outcropping, or maybe it's a constant wind or an ant hill or a place where birds always congregate. That would be the buai. It could be big, but it could be small. It could be obvious or it could be hidden. You have to watch and listen for a while. Watch where the birds and bugs and wind go. Listen to the contours and edges of a place. Walk slowly and feel where the land naturally guides or even pushes you to go. As Mary Oliver says, let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. If you're open and receptive, the buai will draw you in and bring you to them, and then you will know where to spend quality time and where to leave your offerings. An offering to the spirits of place could be a single strand of hair to leave a bit of your DNA. It's a way of saying to a place, hello, my name is. Offering something very tiny is also a way of humbling oneself. It's like basically saying, you're so majestic and I'm so little, and I appreciate all that you do that I could never do. Thank you for keeping me safe and for blessing my life. At our house, we hang cluties on the tree that we consider the buai. We call it the ancestor tree. A clutie is a scrap of fabric or a ribbon, and this old Scottish custom is kind of like hanging a prayer flag on a tree. We hang cluties to honor and acknowledge blessings received, and also to ask for healing and support. In Lithuania, a large rock with a flat-top surface in a field or a farmyard would be considered sacred space. It would be covered with a layer of wheat, which would be frequently refreshed. This was an offering to the devas, the land spirits that protected wheat and livestock. In Germanic and Scandinavian mythology, there was a widespread belief that the spirit of the land could move into a tree. If you were going to clear land to build a home, you would first sleep on the land on a Thursday and Friday. If you were not driven out with fear, then you were welcome to build. However, first you'd decide which tree would remain standing where the spirits of place could move. Ideally, it would be a juniper, rowan, ash, elm, or birch. In Russia, once the home was built, you would bring a branch from that special tree inside, place it in the front corner of the house, and say to the spirits of place, "This is for you, father and neighbor, a truly warm house and a shaggy juniper." In addition to designating sacred trees and bringing branches inside, offerings can include food and drink, flowers and feathers, or little works of art. In old times in Czechoslovakia, it was said that if you make a small doll out of hawthorn branches and hang it at the stable door, then the little folk of the land would play with it and not pester the livestock. Spilling a libation on the land is very common for this purpose, whether it's beer, whiskey, cider, or milk. Offerings can be laid on the earth, or buried, or burned, so the smoke carries the prayer throughout the land and then beyond throughout the cosmos. Sometimes the best offering is a song, or a dance, or a poem, or a prayer spoken out loud. An offering can be as simple as planting your feet on the earth and sending "I love you" down through your thoughts and body. We can begin to repair the legacies of colonialism by making offerings of money, time, energy, vocal support, and civic engagement as a way of saying, "I know the relationship between us is complicated, land. I want to be here in a good way, and I'm willing to make physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual offerings to move towards right relationship going forward." Maybe you could make this the day you begin a new habit of regularly thanking and gifting to the land you live on, perhaps through more intentional caretaking or returning the ecosystem to something more native. How can you tend the spirits of place by tending to the earth you live on today? Today is also the time to remember your way back ancestors, in particular those who identified as men, and feed their spirits. Again, complicated relationships can still be honored by naming them as such. Personally, I believe the only dishonor we can really do is to ignore our ancestors. So if you want to make a list or write a letter about all the crappy things your male ancestors passed down to you and then burn it, feel free. But if you also have warm and loving memories, then talk about them or journal about them today. Share those stories with others. What are the blessings of your patrilineage you're grateful for? Which symbols remind you of those ancestral lines you're proud of and that you wish to invite to watch over you and participate in your holiday festivities this season? Altar items could include photographs, family crests or fabrics woven or embroidered to reflect your heritage, tools of a trade, or a sentimental heirloom like a copy of their signature, a pocket watch, cufflinks, or a pocket knife. Cooking and baking the favorite foods of your male ancestors is a lovely way to honor them and feed their spirits. Perhaps leave a plate outside for them at your offering place. Sure, maybe it's just rats and raccoons who eat it, but who's to say the wild ones aren't related to you too? If your ancestor enjoyed a certain libation, and, of course, the spirits of place where you live are okay with alcohol offerings, you should make sure to ask them first, you could raise a toast to your forefathers and pour some out onto the ground for them to drink. This is also a good time to think about the grief and the blessings of your relationship to the land that you occupy. How did you come here? How did your people come here? Did anyone, human or otherwise, have to leave for you to be here? Guaranteed, someone had to make space for you somewhere along the way, and highly likely they did not consent. So who do you need to acknowledge and thank for that? Who of your bloodline was the first who lived in your bioregion? Did they move here, or were they indigenous, or were they brought here against their will? And how does that live in you still today? What loss, or sadness, or violence might being here carry with it? Who died or was placed so you could live? Who fought wars for you? As you reminisce today, savoring the sweet and the bitter, to whom and for what are you grateful? What feels instinctively to you like a good way to acknowledge your history and the male ancestors of your lineage. Remember that Yule is about a replay of the year in miniature. Celebrating on the second night of Yule also reflects that where I live, February is the time of year when my husband is busy seeding tomatoes in trays on the windowsill and drawing up plans for our spring garden. Here in the southwest of Canada, Pacific Northwest of here in America, February is a fine time for pruning trees, shrubs, and perennials. So for us, a good Yuletide task for today is to gather greenery to make boughs and deck the halls. Although in many ancient traditions, greenery wasn't brought inside until Christmas Eve, this is your Yuletide tradition based on the cosmology of where you are. You can make it what you want based on what you sense is appropriate. You could definitely make a trade with the spirits of place, asking them which boughs are okay for pruning and leaving them some mulch or compost or some other beneficial offering in return. So what would be the usual rhythm of work and householding of the fathers in your bloodline in February? Anything associated with that could also be a nice option for your home altar or ritual work today.